future is now.
Hi there, welcome to this week's weekly video. I wanted to share with you something that we have been helping clients with during the last 8 months, in the first 8 months of 2020. Who of us could have predicted the pandemic and the reality of COVID on all of us, both personally, professionally, for businesses? None of us knew that something of this scope and scale could happen in our lifetime, and here we are, well into it and heading into the last part of 2020. I wanted to focus this video on the importance of reskilling and upskilling in a post-pandemic reality. If anything, what has happened and what's become very apparent is in the pre-pandemic, we were very much still in a traditional model of business where most of us were working in offices, commuting to work, attending events in person, all of those aspects. And then, of course, in the last 8 months, working remotely and companies having to pivot and adjust their systems to that remote work reality, and individuals having to really increase their flexibility factor and their ability to adapt to these fast-changing realities. And we've had many conversations with CEOs and leaders and workers saying that they've struggled mostly with the people part of the remote work reality. In other words, communicating in a way that's as effective as it was when they were in person-to-person contact. Or how do we lead people to be motivated and engaged when we're not sitting across from them and hearing them interact with coworkers and with clients? So we've been helping a lot of our clients really navigate what's next around a post-pandemic reality. And we've also been helping them identify the skills that their workers need in order to really succeed in a post-pandemic reality. Currently, we're working on a new infographic on reskilling and upskilling for the post-pandemic reality, and we will be sharing that and uploading it to the site nextmapping.com. I wanted this video to just give you some pause for thought as an individual, but also as a leader, if you are a leader, around what we should be looking for. And literally there's 6 steps or 6 things that we should be looking for in reskilling. Number 1 is identifying the skills gaps. Now, for a lot of organizations, they've been doing that as part of their regular HR processes. They've been looking at that and saying, okay, who are the people on the team? What are their current skills? What skills do they need? But we're now in a new reality where the skills that are needed in a work environment, office environment, are very different than the skills needed in a remote environment. So we need to have people with up-leveled communication ability. And when we look at communication skills, that includes the ability to influence virtually, the ability to negotiate virtually, the ability to work with teams on multitudes of projects virtually. And that requires an increased sensitivity to the nuance of interaction. So when you're human to human, face to face, you can see body language, you can feel the inflections and the differences. When you're virtual and on video, you can still do that, but it requires a new level of attention and your communication ability to look for cues and signs of whether you're on the same page or you're making progress. That requires a new heightened level of presence, a new heightened level of attunement, and a new heightened level of using language to meet people at their personality. So that's number 1. The second one is identifying how to bridge the skills gaps. So once you've identified the skills gaps, now you got to go, okay, what is it that we need to do? 50% of executives surveyed have said that they have not fully identified the skills gaps of their current teams, which means now is an opportunity to really focus on who has the skill gaps, what are those skills gaps, and then how do we identify what those are. Thirdly, we want to look at launching tailored learning journeys. So how do we then take the skills gaps that we've identified and then personalize a learning journey for each individual that fits with A, their learning style, B, the remote reality. So is part of their learning going to be technical learning that needs to be guided? Recently, I worked with a client and helped them align the technology of WalkMe, which is an overlaid technology that helps go on top of a new technology that's being trained, and it points to helping people learn the technology through on-screen guidance. So that's an example of, okay, is it technical training and part of making that part of the training journey? But then in addition to that, part of that learning journey is what is the coaching that they're going to receive, the individual, the worker is going to receive. And is that coaching also on the people aspect, how to be a better communicator, how to negotiate better, how to work in a team more effectively, how to identify personalities, how to work with a multiple intelligence lens. Those are all components of that learning journey. Fourthly, we want to then look to, if you haven't already and you want to expand this, is to link up with your learning partners. So you obviously would have in-house learning partners that are focused on reskilling and upskilling the teams. You also want to identify who are your outsourced learning partners. We're working with a client right now where we're one of their outsourced learning partners on online skill development for future-ready skills, such as everyone is a leader, such as negotiation skills and critical thinking, such as innovation skills. So identify your learning partners and how are you going to deliver the learning? Is it going to be remote, virtual, like video training? Is it going to be supported by coach or outside coach perspective? Those are some of the elements that you want to look at. You also want to then look to really developing your leaders' ability to lead remote teams. Right now, leaders are being stretched. They're navigating multiple challenges and realities, and one of the biggest stretches is how do we keep our teams engaged and motivated when we're not face-to-face with them in the traditional office environment. And so really looking at, okay, what are we doing on a regular basis? So I have a client right now where she's the CEO and she's doing personalized video and audio messages for her teams on a weekly basis. Just, encouraging them to keep going, giving an update from her perspective on where they are in status updates. In addition to virtual video conferences with her teams, having her regular one-on-ones with team members, just things like that that continue the touch points, because that whole phrase out of sight, out of mind is a constant challenge for remote working reality. And then also really importantly is having those sort of, water cooler chats where they're not necessarily about work, but they're about life and how people are dealing and the support that they need. And especially now in September with some kids going back to school and parents dealing with that reality. And there's a lot that is being navigated right now in the month of September by workers and leaders, and having to sort that out requires a tremendous amount of psychological awareness of people by leaders, of their workers, more tolerance and space for the realities of workers juggling these extra challenges, and then also being very crystal clear in communication around expectations and performance measurement, and when people need to identify when they're burning out and they need to take a break. So leaders need to really ramp up their ability to be empathetic while still holding workers accountable. And that's a delicate dance. And we find that helping leaders navigate this is one of the biggest skills development opportunities for the reskilling and upskilling opportunities of the future of work. And then lastly is we need to meet the skills gaps needed with speed. In other words, we can't just be thinking about this and talking about it. We need to be looking at the skills gaps now. Where are we now? Who are the people on our team? What are the skills that they need? So that's critical. And then building those learning partner plans and those skill developments plans and getting leaders up to speed on reskill. It's urgent now. And the reason for that is we can't be behind the 8 ball on this as we head into 2021, because the skills gaps are going to continue to widen, and those that are on top of reskilling and upskilling their workers are going to be having the competitive advantage. So this is really, I feel, a huge imperative for the future of work 2021 and beyond, is really anchoring in on the reskill and upskill. Really not just applying an internal training program, but building those learning partners and those multiple ways of people learning and skills developing, and being able to leverage that so that workers are feeling that they have the ability to flex, adapt. They're learning the change skills. They're learning the skills needed to stay agile in these fast times of change. So in this week's video, it's all about reskilling, upskilling. For yourself individually, asking yourself, where are my skills gaps? Where do I need to improve? Where can I get those skills gaps met and filled? And really building a personalized plan so that we're continually learning and growing and meeting the future ready with our skills adaptability. So that's this week's message. If you have any comments, please post them below. Please send us an email, Cheryl@nextmapping.com. Please join us on social media. We'd like to hear from you and love to hear what you're doing to reskill and upskill to be future ready now.